Well, I had a few, and
Okay.
honestly, a lot of them were answered by just watching you explain.
Okay, so
stuff.
James was your guinea pig here.
Yeah, well, I joined. It was just convenient. I was like, oh, yeah.
So you want to give me back? So if you didn't get it quite right on the bibliography, just take the changes you need to make, apply them, and then the most important thing is that you have something good to cut and paste from the final paper for the works cited list.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay.
And do you prefer to say bibliography or works cited?
Well, no, there are two phases of it. Okay. So right now at the stage you are at the research paper, it's a bibliography. It's a list of works you are looking at, some of which you will use, some of which you won't, right?
Oh.
Okay, the key thing to remember is in works cited is the word cited. So the word cited with a C means that you've directly used this source in your text at some point.
Yeah, I didn't
So
know
like
which one. I thought it was like interchangeable.
No, they're two stages of the same process. Cole, you were saying?
So a bibliography is something that these are the works that I've looked at to write this paper, and a works cited is this is what I've quoted from to write this paper.
Now, theoretically, you don't necessarily need to quote from it, but it all cited says is that you've used it. Okay, so let's start with the notes for the day. Okay. So bibliography, a list of you've looked at, but not necessarily used. Okay, let's see who iPhone is. Okay, so the works cited list, a list of sources you've used. Oops, excuse me, in the paper. Now, usually this means you're quoting it, but it's entirely possible you may not quote from it and then still use it.
Okay.
So if you use the information without quoting, it's still in your works cited list. Okay. So what this means is the relationship between the two is you make the bibliography, get it correct, cut and paste from the bibliography to make your works cited list.
Okay.
And then cut and paste from it. Bibliography. Make the works cited list. So what that means is your purpose right now at this stage in the research paper, you're in the getting information from the sources phase. Okay. You're getting information from them. Now, most of that, that means you're looking for quotes. Okay. So any questions about that so far?
No.
Okay. I do have a question. iPhone, who are you?
I don't know.
Jose Hernandez.
Jose. Okay, good. Good to see you. Okay. So Cole and Jose, can you put your camera on, or is that not possible at this point?
I'm currently working.
Oh, okay, I get
where
it.
I work
get it.
doesn't allow it.
Okay,
You'll have
I get
to
it.
give me a second. I'm gonna have to grab my camera.
Okay. Well, I mean, James is noticeably hideous, and he's got his camera on.
Some people like it.
Some people like it.
Yeah, so
It's for some people's taste,
yeah,
sir.
yeah, desired taste.
My mom likes it.
Mhm.
My mom likes it. There you go.
Yeah, my dad loves it.
Okay, there we go. Okay. Okay, so any questions about any of that so far?
No.
No, sir.
Okay, so what you should be doing right now, you should read, okay, you should concentrate on the sources that you find the most information in. Okay, read them and collect quotes. So what this means is if you're reading this on your computer, just have the cut and paste available. Okay, I would suggest cutting and pasting quotes from them onto a Word file so that you'll then save in Times Roman, so that you can very easily cut and paste this into your paper.
All right.
If you're reading them on print, have a pen or pencil or a laptop there available so you can write the quotes out.
I got another question.
Go for it.
In like when we were doing the our first paper on the I can't remember that one, the article you gave us, and we would do the C method. Are we supposed to give are we supposed to use a conclusion in every subject, or just at the end of the 10 pages, or every time we switch ideas or whatever?
No, that's a good question. So every essay, no matter how short, no matter how long, is going to have a conclusion.
Yeah.
And what they're all going to have in common is conclusions or a look back at what you've done in the essay.
Mhm.
So the difference is on a 10-page and an 8 to 10-page essay, there are more pages to look back at than in a 4 to 5 page essay.
Oh, okay.
But the same thing is going to be there, where you're going to look back and you're going to say, okay, I'm looking back at all these 7 other pages that I've written. What do I want the reader to think about? I want to bring it to the reader's attention.
Okay.
And then I want to leave with one final idea about whatever that is. Okay. So what's inevitably going to happen in the paper is that your ideas are going to develop, they're going to change as you write the paper, because unless you're a very unusual person, you won't know at the beginning of the essay everything you're going to think about it. Okay, ideas are going to occur to you as you're writing.
Okay.
So this is a chance at the end of the essay to look back and step forward for the ultimate one, right? Now, you connect that to C, or statement explanation example. It's a broader use of statement explanation example because you're going back and making a final statement, looking back over it. Now, statement explanation example itself, we use that primarily to talk about what you're doing on the road with individual examples, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So think about that as look back. The most important principle to think about, the most important catchy principle for that is look back, step forward.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When you've presented some information for us, you need to look back at it. You need to say to yourself, well, okay, of all the things I've shown the reader, what do I want the reader to think about? And I'm realizing I should probably put this up here.
Do we use our opinion in the piece at all, or more
Yeah.
towards the end?
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about okay. So let's give you some basic principles to go on this. Okay. Now, the first basic principle is it's not anything massively different from a regular paper. Now, I'm just going to use good academic word, good intrinsically, which means by its nature, different from earlier papers. It's just longer and involves more sources. Okay. You will still do for this paper what you did for other papers, or should have done for other papers, which is to look back at all the things you've talked about.
Yeah.
Let's do it this way. And when you do that, you'll remind us of key ideas or examples. And come and finish with a final idea. Okay. So that's still the same thing. It will just be that there will be more of them. Okay. So next, remember that if you don't use the source, it's not in your works cited list.
Okay. So we'll have to have two at the end. We'll have a works cited and a bibli.
No. Well, I mean, there will be teachers who will ask for a bibliography and a works cited list, which is perfectly fine at the same time. The way I do it is I look at the bibliography earlier, and I'm looking at the bibliography to make sure that everything is okay with it. And then when I look at the paper, I'm only looking for the works cited list.
Okay.
But, you know, be open to the possibility that perfectly legitimate that teachers will have you turn both the bibliography and the works cited list at the end. That's perfectly fine. Just a different way of doing it. The next thing about this, it doesn't matter how many times you use the source, it's still in your, if you use it even once, even if you quote just one word, it's still in your works cited list. It's going to be in your works cited list. 100 times. So you want to remember that the bibliography and the works cited list are are effectively in the way they look. They will be the same. The works cited list will just be shorter because it's only the sources you specifically used. Okay, and it doesn't matter how many times you use them. I've got in the sample workshop research paper I'm going to start showing you guys this week. I've got one source that I quote for one word. And I've got a couple sources I come back to several times. It doesn't matter for the works cited list case, it doesn't matter. Using is using. Okay. So let's think a little bit about the purpose of the research, the purpose of the works cited list. Showing you got your information. Okay. Giving readers some sources to look for in their own research paper. Okay. So one part of it is, and frankly, I actually want to see all the faces for this one. So okay, when you are writing at a college, initial college level, I want you to be just a tiny little bit paranoid. I want you to assume that everybody who reads your information doesn't trust you. Everybody thinks you're lying. Everybody thinks you're trying to get away with something. Okay. So how do you show that you're not trying to lie, that you're not trying to get away with something? You show your work.
All right.
Okay. So the reader can go to the place, see the sources you read, and find that what you say is there. They can look at what you write about it and say, not only is what he says there, he's also been valid in the way he discussed it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So it's a trust but verify situation because in general, we're going to trust you unless you give us reason not to trust you. Right. Now that goes a little bit against what I just said, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. But in real life, most teachers are going to go along with things unless we see something that kind of sets up red flags. But I want you to be more paranoid. I want you to assume that we think you're lying.
Yeah.
So you want to be rock solid on your technique. You want to be okay. If there's an information you got, even if you didn't code it, you put the documentation right behind it. So right after any idea you get, especially quotes, okay, I as a reader can go to that place, see that thing, and see that what you said is on the place, on that place, at that place is there. And I can see that you used it, you didn't misinterpret it, okay, you understood it and you used it adequately.
Oh.
So
Okay.
what happens is, as people get farther into the profession, we cut them a little bit more slack because they've developed, it's kind of like they paid their dues.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but assume at this point you haven't paid your dues, so you want to start with rock solid technique. Okay. Now, another reason for that, aside from the paranoia, is just that, like as with anything you're going to do, from any sport, from any musical instrument to any sort of practice, when you first start doing it, you have to go more by the book.
Mm-hmm.
Because what you're doing is you're building technique, you're building a solid method, and then when you get more comfortable with it and you're doing better at it, you can relax that method. So, for example, you notice in the sample research paper I give you, I do not follow the exact template I ask you to use.
I couldn't tell.
Well, you haven't seen it yet, but you'll notice when it is. For example, you'll notice when you get the sample research paper, and I will talk about this in a video when I go over it. I wrote the template after I'd written the paper. And because the templates, for years I fought templates, and I said, well, it's kind of forcing students to do something. And then I realized most students kind of want a template. They want something that's some comfortable method that they can look and say, okay, I don't know exactly what I'm doing. If I do this, I'll be fine, right? Okay, that's what I'm giving you in the template. And so what I want you to do is use the template. The basic template. I've been using the same basic template all semester. Okay, we're adapting it to different essays with different numbers of sources. Okay, but we're still the same basic template. Okay. So what I'm hoping works for you guys is next semester, the semester after that, after you've used this template for a little bit, okay, and if a teacher doesn't give you a template, you should be able to use what I'm talking about here and adapt it to those purposes there. But I'm hoping that within 3 or 4 years, all of you are kind of adapting the template doing different things with it that are according to what you're doing. In other words, you don't need the template anymore.
Oh, okay.
But right now, I suspect most of you need the template because, how many of you are just kind of terrified about this research paper that is coming up terrifyingly close right now?
I am.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give you a sample, and I'm going to want to remind you, it's not up yet, but I'm giving you a sample. I'm hoping to put it up this week. It is also going to be something that is only different from the template that you've done so far in the fact that it's longer and it has more sources. Okay. Aside from that, you're doing the same basic thing. Okay, which reminds me it's time to start doing giving you some more notes on this. Oh, I did put that note up there. Okay. So right now, you are gathering information. And that's mostly quotes. And what you want is have them ready. And I'd say preferably on a Word file. So you can just put them straight into the paper where you need.
So what are the quotes like about? What type of quotes should we be getting?
Okay. Well, I mean, that's a good question, and it's going to be different quotes for different sources. So the heart of what you're going to do in the research paper is like the heart of what you're doing in the argumentation essay, the heart of what you're doing, what you did in the short story analysis, and the heart of what you're doing in the Marrow Thieves. At all cases, this essay grows from what do you know about the subject you're talking about? That's the heart of it.
Okay.
Okay, so I want you to think about yourselves as like your moderators or MCs in the paper, and you're bringing us through the sources.
Mm.
So when you're doing it as a moderator or MC, you are communicating. Let's do it more directly. You communicate your understanding of the topic. Now, what you do is you bring the sources in at the places where they gave you the idea and the places it fits with the overall arc of this essay. That sounds easy. It will be a little bit tricky when you get excuse me. So again, the research paper will be a little bit more complex in this, because the moment you have a bunch of different sources you're talking to, you have a bunch of different ideas going in many different ways. And the different ways they may go may pull you in a bunch of different directions. Okay. In fact, are you guys at a place with the research where you're finding a lot of sources are saying very different things, and they're sometimes even disagreeing with each other?
No, I'm having a problem finding enough sources to say something.
Okay. Okay, well, let's pause there for a minute. Now, what do you mean by enough sources to say something?
I mean,
Are you having trouble finding sources that are saying things?
yeah, that substantiate what I'm trying to put in my paper.
Okay, well, how many of the sources gave you ideas that you're going to put in the paper?
Well, it's not, I was going to write it in stages.
Okay.
I was going to write about the subject, the suicide part, and then I was going to write about how it affects other people and then what they thought, like the family members or people like that. And then I was going to go into the religious side of it. And then that was about it.
Okay, that could work. So what I'm going to suggest is for your introductions, remember that the introduction of the paper is not going to be massively different, or it's not going to be at its heart different from the introductions you've done so far. So for any introduction, no matter what type of essay it is, the most important purpose of the introduction is to say, here's the topic, here's a general overview of the topic. Okay. So for example, with as I remember, it's suicide among veterans.
Suicide, yeah.
Okay. So your first paragraph, okay, in fact, your first page is going to be say, essentially, there's a problem, okay, with suicide among veterans.
Oh, okay.
Now, when you do that, C kicks in, right? So if I say to you, there's a major problem with suicide among U.S. veterans today, what's the first question you would have of that statement?
Explain it.
Explain. How is it a problem?
Right.
So notice, it doesn't matter that your essay is going to be 8 to 10 pages, which is almost twice the length of any essays you've done so far in this class. You're still doing the same thing. And at any given time in the paper, you're still using C.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So with the introduction, your job is general. I want by a reader by the end of that first page to have an idea of how bad a problem it is. What are the signs that it's a problem? Okay. What are the basic outlines of the problem? Okay. Then when you go into the body, the natural place to go is to say, is again, to anticipate readers' questions. If it's a problem, how did it become a problem, right? So then naturally at the start of the body, you'd go back and you'd explain the history of it. Okay. Okay. In fact, let's put some notes on that. So the introduction. And it starts with something like suicide among veterans is a massive problem in the United States today.
I'm not doing the veterans part.
Oh, I forgot. Which part are you doing?
Just male suicide.
Just male suicide?
Yeah.
Okay. So
and then I might throw something in there at the end about the transgenders.
Oh, okay. But you're focusing primarily about cisgender heterosexual male, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure about the cis part. I don't know if I'm using that right.
Well, a cisgender, okay, cisgender simply means heterosexual male.
Okay.
Identifying as this, okay, I feel weird saying it, but it's a term we're going to want to get used to because it's something that's used a lot now, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so the body would naturally go back in history.
Mm.
Now, next, as you tell the story, so for at least a page, you're just going to tell the story of this.
Okay.
Look, and what you do is you look for what your sources have said.
Mm.
And what people often forget when they start the paper, or actually when they write the paper, is they forget that they got the information from someplace. Because what tends to happen is when we have information, we make it ours and we kind of forget where we got it from. That's totally natural. But in research, you don't want to do that because you always want to give credit and you always want to give readers a place to look for to expand their own research. Okay.
Right.
And when you come to a place where you've gotten information, use the source that gave you that information. Okay. So one of the patterns over this essay is, at least for 2 or possibly even 3 pages, is going to be the history of what's happened, right?
Mm.
Okay. Then when you get to the present, okay. Now what you're going to do now is you've given us information that explains a little bit historically about how it came to be the problem it is.
Mhm.
Now the question is, we understand a little bit more. Okay, what are especially problematical now? What are the big issues now?
Mm.
Okay, so let's know one of the ways of giving detail. Find organizations that have been trying to solve the problem. Which challenges they face. Examine how effective they have been. Now, these sources are going to come up with more problems. What are the problems there? What are the challenges they face? Examine those challenges. Okay. And you stop and examine them for a little bit.
Mm.
Now, what I should probably do here is I am going to put up in fact, I really should do that pretty quickly. It's about time for you guys to look at this. On the sample research paper, I've got 3 parts of that. And the first part is just a basic set of approaches to work into research paper. Okay,
Mhm.
and a basic set of patterns to use for the body, which is largely example based, right?
Mhm.
Okay, but let's talk about a short list of okay, in fact, oh, actually, let's go to in the conclusion. Look back at all the examples and all the points you've made. Remind us of which you want us to think about. Leave us with a final thought about it. He wants to take going away from the paper. Let's say take away a bit. Okay. Now, does any of this sound familiar?
Yeah,
Because it's the same basic thing as the previous papers, isn't it?
yeah, to defund the police, same thing.
Yeah, same basic thing, because with all of these, we've used the concept of look back, step forward. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. And the difference is with with the argumentation essay, you had two sources that you were looking back and stepping forward. So it was a little bit simpler because you just had those two to be concerned with. Okay, with the short story analysis, all you have to look back and step forward about was the examples from the story, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Now with Marrow Thieves, you're going to have three sources. You're going to have the Marrow Thieves. You're going to have the two sources you're going to use, right?
Mhm.
Okay. But and for this one, the same thing is going on.
Is it okay if we don't use the book as much, or do we? Is there?
You mean for Marrow Thieves?
Yeah. Do you want us to reference the book more, or
Oh, you're going to
other
use the
two
book. You're
sources?
going to use the book more than the other two sources.
Okay.
Okay, so what you want to remember is for the Marrow Thieves, the heart of it is what you did with the short story analysis. Okay, that's going to be most of it. You are looking back. You are starting with what you see about your theme in Marrow Thieves.
Okay.
That's where it starts. That's where it starts. That's also where it ends. Okay, I want to hear about the Marrow Thieves the first thing. I want to hear Marrow Thieves the last thing. Okay, you bring in. Go ahead.
I said okay.
Okay. Now I believe I did a video in which I talk over the techniques in the sample, right?
I don't know.
Let me take a look. Because now would be the time to be looking at those.
Yeah, that's why I didn't just say yeah. And then...
So you don't want to be hung out to dry, do you?
Not really.
Okay. So yes, the Marrow Thieves analysis sample. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move that to this week so we keep up with it. And the guidelines. Okay. So I want to actually double check on that. Okay, so this is the sample. So this is what's going to be important for that. And I may not have done a video. I want to see. So this is the video that we're. Okay, so what that means, what that tells me is that I have not yet done a video where I go over the Marrow Thieves sample essay. I know, I think about week 10. I think about week 10, I did something in the class that talked about it. Actually, let's take a look back there. Oh yeah, here it is. It's week 10. So let me move that up to week 13. Okay, so let me double check this here. Yep. Okay. Okay, so that is up to date. Okay, so I've got a video where I go over those samples. Now is the time to look at that. Okay, so first, are any last questions about the research paper?
Not right now. How about
Not
that?
right now. Okay, feel free to bring me up. Now, let me give you a kind of timeline that's working here. We're in week 13. Oops. Okay. Right now, how did that happen? Huh? Okay, week 14. Okay, rough draft of Marrow Thieves. Analysis. Week 15. Rough draft research paper. Week 16. Final draft research paper. And final examination.
What's the final examination?
Well, I will talk about that more later, but essentially there are two parts of it. The first part is a set of questions. C is going to be on it. Statement quote analysis. Be ready for something that's going to be on documentation. Okay. And the last part of it is going to be 75% of that grade is going to be an essay. But essentially what it means is all you have to do the last week, once you've turned in the research paper, all you have to do to complete the class is to take the final. Okay. And which means that what I'll be doing on the Zoom session that day is going over a practice final.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I will show you guys a practice final. Even for those who don't come, I'll show you a practice final. And since this is an online class, you will be doing it on your own.
Okay.
I'm not going to require you to come in. The other thing to think about for the final examination is I'm only going to use it as a tiebreaker. Okay. For most people, I'm not even going to look at the final, because for most people, after the research paper and after Marrow Thieves analysis, you're going to have a grade in the class. Okay, so let's say after the research paper and the Marrow Thieves analysis, you've got a 92%. Well, I'm going to put 92% in the final examination. You're still going to take it, but I'll put it there. Okay, but let's say it's the percentage going into the final is 89%. Well, there's a chance you're going to get an A from this. Okay, so if there's a chance that the final could change your grade, I will look at the final examination to see if you get the higher grade. Okay. So if it might be 80, if it's 89% and you get a 91 or 92 on it, you get an A in the class, right? But let's say it's 89% and you might have an A or might have a B in the final, and you get an 85%, you get a B. Okay. But it's also, let's say it gets an 89% going into the final. It might be an A, it might be a B, but you get a 75%, you get a B.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So the way to think about it is all I'm using the final examination for is a chance to get one grade higher. So if you try for that one grade higher, okay, and you don't get it, you don't go, I'm not going to average it in to a C.
Okay.
If you go in the final, maybe with an A or a B, maybe with an A or maybe with a B, the lowest you can get is the B.
Okay.
So let's take the extreme case. It's 89%, you might get an A, you might get a B, you get a 50%, you get the B.
Oh.
So think about it as good, like going into the final game and losing the final game. You just didn't get the higher grade. That's all.
Okay.
But again, we'll talk more about that later. Okay. Okay. So those are the notes there. I'm gonna put those up here, and when the video comes up, I will do that as well. Unfortunately, I need to leave right now because I've got a meeting I need to get to pretty quickly. We are practicing for the Cherie Dimaline thing, and okay. And remember, how many of you are going to Cherie Dimaline's
I'll be there.
video on Thursday?
I'll be there.
I'll be there.
Yeah, I was gonna go.
Yeah, good. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up the assignment for the extra credit. It will be something very brief. It will be about a page.
Okay.
Okay, so it's just essentially a chance to give you guys some extra credit and to get people there, and you will get a chance to see me on stage. Okay,
Right on.
What?
Right on.
Right on. Exactly. Okay.
I'm interested to see.
Yep, I'm looking forward to it too. But then part of me is just looking forward to having this intense time of the semester done.
Yeah. I had a quick question,
Yeah.
Professor.
Yeah.
I was wondering if there was any chance we'd be able to meet privately, either that be Zoom or person. Maybe if we could set up something.
Okay, well, if you want to come in, my office hours are tomorrow from 8 to 9 and 11 to 12.
8 to 9 and 11 to 12.
You can come by my office. It's in ATC, right across from the Writing Center. It's in room 140.
140. Okay.
Yeah. But if you can't, we can try and see. The tricky thing about Zoom is in order to know you're going to Zoom, you want to Zoom and at what time you want to Zoom. Then I would have to be paying attention to my inbox, and I don't always get a chance to do that.
Okay. Well, thank you, sir.
Okay. So Jose, what are you thinking about? Okay. Do you want to come in tomorrow?
Yeah, I was going to come in tomorrow, either 11 to 12 or 8 to 9.
Okay. Okay, I'll be on the lookout for you then.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, you're welcome.
And you said it was room 140 in the ATC
Room
building?
140. Have you been to the Writing Center?
Writing Center? No, I have
In
not.
the ATC? It's building 21, room 40 is where I am.
Okay.
Okay, it's almost dead center in the middle of the building on the south side.
I'll find it.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Cole, any questions?
No, sir.
Okay. James, any last questions?
No, sir.
Okay, I will see you guys next week, or I will see you guys on Thursday, excuse me.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay.
All right. Right.
Okay, bye.